And it was because I think people were speaking a language in the yoga studio that my dance training hadn't really spoken or
Mm.
had only started to speak. And that conversation was something I really needed to have with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so now when I make work and I watch myself back on video, which is the worst thing in the world to do, I hate watching myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, but when I start looking back and I start adjusting my eye to what I'm seeing, I can see better. Oh, okay, I'm trying to do this, but I'm doing this. Like I feel this inside, but as I move or I experience things physically, I'm not doing what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So it's disconnected. I can see in my performance even now.
Yeah.
But the more that I start to have those conversations with myself, and the more I start to explore, okay, well, I want it to look this way and I want to feel this way about it. How do I connect those things?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a much better and richer conversation I can have with myself as an artist now that I have this language of yoga underneath
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah, and you're translating and transforming whatever is happening with yoga to dance, and I'm sure vice versa as well. Like it becomes like kind of more, and
It's
and
reciprocal.
yeah, I think it's beautiful too because I've definitely really felt that too. You know, like understanding your body and understanding what the body is actually capable of is, I think, really beautiful, and I'm sure it's so useful also for a dancer to go to that level. Like that's
Yeah.
really.
I mean, it's no surprise that Sharon Gannon was a dancer,
Hmm. Yeah.
and she was like teaching aerobic exercise dance classes
Yeah.
before she started teaching yoga.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she still walks and moves and flies, around like a dancer. I always feel like even when she walks, I'm always like, yeah, that's the walk of a dancer. She's still, but my mom is the same. My mom has been dancing her whole life, and still the way she doesn't do much with dance anymore, but she just moves like a dancer. You just know it. And another thing that I really loved that you were writing about in this beautiful blog post is I really like what you said about, yeah, they can handle gay, but they can't handle day.
Oh yeah.
I think it's a really important thing because my friend Alfie in episode 31, if people haven't listened to it, we speak about non-binary because you identify as a trans non-binary. So also if I want to refer to you or someone else wants to refer to you, it's they or them, which is this like, hey, they don't get, but gay they do get. Tell me a little
Yes.
bit about how that is. And also I was wondering if, because I was actually really touched what you said about, you pretending to be in your body a little bit different, like even like being a bit more like male than you are, like kind of having to hide in your own body and pretending to be this person that you aren't really. And it's really interesting. I thought I'd love to talk to you a little bit about what that is for you, you know?
I actually just had a conversation with this about someone because I posted online something about my trans experience. And he's like, "Oh, so you're transitioning?" No, no, I'm not. So the notion of gender is a social construct,
Mm-hmm.
but just like our bodies are as real as they can be, gender is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you experience it and you learn about it, you learn about it through a very specific lens. So the way that I have experienced it is I was born, someone looked at down there and said, "Oh, that's a boy." So
Mm-hmm.
I've been raised as Sam and Samuel the boy, and growing up in my dance studio, told to dance more masculine or given solos or given roles that maybe I didn't deserve, just because I people perceived me as a boy, and into college as a man. And it wasn't until grad school that I had a professor and I had a couple other classmates who identified as trans non-binary or trans femme or gender queer or gender non-conforming, all of these different words, and using other pronouns than he, him, his, or she, her, hers. Like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 26. I'm 31 now. I was 20. So this is 5 years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
was 26 when I first discovered that one could speak about oneself this way. And so it changed how I danced because I was like, oh, I don't have to be the man that everyone expects me to be, but I don't have to be a woman either.
Mm-hmm. I can
Um,
just be free.
I could just be this beautiful unicorn sitting right here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, putting on this masculine walk that I know that I have, that I've mastered because it's what's saved me
Yeah.
so many times. I walk into a space where there are a lot of gay men, and they're all cisgender. They were born and assigned male at birth, and they grew up agreeing with that. That's what cisgendered means. Like oh yeah, I'm a guy, totally. That's fine. Call me a guy. And so when I explain that to them, I get the most pushback from gay men.
Yeah, everybody always says that. It's amazing.
Really, it's the people that supported me the most who feel the most betrayed somehow. And I don't get that. I don't get that at all.
No.
And, it's something that I've had to come to terms with family members of mine, with friends of mine. Every time I've had to reveal something really personal, I mostly get a lot of support. Mm-hmm. Except for those like one or two people who just don't get it.
Yeah.
So, and it's a very common experience that it when you make such a statement, when you say, "Hey, this is me, this is who I am, this is how I want you to think of me or to speak about me," it somehow challenges them and makes them angry, because now they have to do work. They have to
think that you have to use their brain. Like, oh my God.
It's so exhausting. It's so funny to hear like the arguments against who and what I am. And it's like, why can't you just be gay? I'm like, because that's not all there is to me. Mm-hmm. And then that tells me that they only think of me as gay, which is horrendous, because I'm more than that. Mm-hmm. It's a facet of who I am. It's a reality of my life that I'm gay, but I'm also trans. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with the gender that I was given. That's what trans means at its core. Yeah. And I don't identify on this binary of man or woman. I'm somewhere in between or beyond. Mm-hmm. Beyond. We call that param brahma.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, beyond and beyond.
I'm param brahma. There were a Sanskrit equivalent gender, it would be that. Mm-hmm. I'm neither man nor woman, nor neither Ida or Pingala. I'm param brahma.
Yeah. And many with you, and many are with you. It's also we are developing. Like generations, we're developing, we're growing, we're changing, we're shifting. And if that's, for me personally as well, like yeah, I'm a woman and I'm a she, and I'm very comfortable with that. But I totally get it. And for me, it's just when we were in New York, and you're like, yeah, so I really like I'm non-binary, and I really okay, so you're gay. Now, for me, it's just something that's, but I also had to learn. Like I had friends in Australia, and I'm still so grateful for them, all of them, for teaching me, these lessons of non-binary and trans people. And because I was I think I was just confused about it also, because it was new in my life. And I was like, what do you mean? But now, especially the times we're living in now, I think it's really simple. And even Alfie, I love what they say, because Alfie is mentioning, but they is the correct English. If you pass a car and you look at the car and you say, oh, they are driving this and this car, that's, that's, yeah, the grammar. You don't know who's in the car. So, because in a way, I think a lot of people, I'm sure you get it too, always want to have a discussion. Yeah, but it's not proper English. It's like, well, yeah. Actually, it is.
Because like when you talk about singular and plural pronouns in the English language, I can be talking to you, or if there's a group of people, I can be talking to you.
Yeah.
And no one ever questions that. Mm-hmm. When you're in a bar and one person drops their wallet, you're talking about one person dropping their wallet. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't know if it was a man or a woman.
Yeah. They dropped their wallet.
It's, they dropped their wallet.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So there are all these examples that people want to intentionally ignore. Mm-hmm. The word they as a singular pronoun has been used since the 1300s. And there is a whole list of other pronouns that people have developed that have been in use and written down since the 1850s.
Yeah.
And we call them neopronouns, Zinsender, or other things like that, other words that people create. They have been around forever.
Yeah.
because everything starts out in an oral tradition well
Hmm.
before it ever gets written down.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
when it gets written down in the olden days before, access to the internet and,
Hmm.
printing privileges
Yeah.
in college, not everyone had access to the written word.
Yeah.
So when people wrote things down, they prioritized what to write. And no one can know in the past what's going to be relevant or important in the future. So
Exactly.
how would anyone know back then to be representative of trans and gay people if it was just a normal part of life?
Hmm. Hmm.
There are
And
always
so when 5 years ago the light bulb came into your life, Sam,
Mhm.
has it also changed your relationship again with your body and how you see your body, how you use your body, like completely, not just in dance, but in general, do you feel?
Well, I talk a little bit about it in the blog about the solo that I'm creating,
Yeah.
and my director and I have been working really hard on trying to figure out what my body is.
Hmm.
And I've been talking to my therapist for months now about what that is and like how sometimes it feels inauthentic or performative to put on queerness or to put on something that makes me look queer. And it's frustrating because it would be nice to walk into a space and no one assume that I'm a man. But I recognize that people do that. That's just a reality. And it's not something that I have to accept, um, but it is something that I recognize happens.
Hmm.
So then there comes the question, how much do I have to do? How much do I have to take on to make myself more visibly queer? And, for example, for this interview, I have on this lovely big sweater that I feel is very feminine for me. I bought it in the section at Target. I have on these lovely earrings.
Yeah, I already complimented your earrings because I love them.
I love this nail polish. This is called unicorn skin.
It's the
It's
best.
beautiful and I love it. And I love doing my nails.
Yeah.
And I feel like that does queer me up, so to speak.
Hmm.
The problem with it, though, is that when you make yourself visible, you make yourself a target.
Hmm.
So, I know any number of women who, when they go out and about by themselves, they'll put on really baggy clothes and they'll try to cover up and make it appear less like a woman when they walk out because they don't want to be attacked because that's a normal thing that women, cis or trans, have to experience on a
Yeah,
daily because we live in a patriarchal, misogynistic society. Well, now
absolutely.
stepping into it as a queer person, as a trans person,
Yeah.
shit, people really don't like me. I
Hmm.
have been stalked, I've been harassed, I've been followed for blocks, people just laughing at me. I've been attacked. And I was attacked on Pride in New York City on the day of Pride by a guy who thought I was flirting with him. I walked by him. He looked at me, so I looked back and just kept going because I'm like, oh, someone's looking at me. I'm going to look at them. And he kicked me. He knocked the shit out of my hands that I was holding. I was like holding on to some stuff. And he starts screaming obscenities at me and then runs away
Mm.
just for being present.
Yeah.
Like, so it's this thing of like how much responsibility do I have to have as a queer person, whatever kind of queer I am, to let other people know socially through my clothing, through my physicality. Do I have to tell other people that I'm queer?
Hmm.
Because in doing so, I make myself a possible target to those who would seek to harm me.
Hmm.
So when I come into my dance or my yoga body and I step into that performative role as either a teacher or as a dancer, a performer, how much do I have to change about who I am? And so that's a really big conversation I've been having. I have no answers yet. And there are some things that like I have a very blended technical background. I've studied jazz and ballet and tap and modern and hip hop and in grad school studied Baroque French courtly dancing. I am certified in a movement notation system called Laban notation, which through that also led to learning about Laban movement analysis and Bartinia fundamentals. And, I'm also going to be going back to school soon for physical therapy. And I study yoga and asana and
Hmm.
vinyasa. And so now I'm trying to just aggregate all this knowledge about dance and movement as a whole.
Hmm.
So I can figure out how I want to move.
Yeah.
It's not easy because there are no right answers.
Hmm.
And back to my ADHD statement at the beginning of this podcast.